5 positions to take a look at: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defensive teams, the special teams. And we will have 3 categories for each: guaranteed producers, sleepers and or breakout stars, and then the last one, potential disappointments. So here we go. Without further ado, quarterbacks. We have, of course, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, future Hall of Famers. You know, I mean, there's no question those guys will produce. But
well, the interesting thing with them, though, is they're not 100% going into the season, so it's a little bit different. Now, Tom Brady, I'm not worried about him. The Patriots are just pulling their old, you know, he's not 100%, but I really wouldn't be worried about him. Peyton Manning, on the other hand, has a legitimate chance to miss week 1. I still wouldn't let him fall too far, because if he only plays 15 or 14 games, he's going to be a top 2 or 3 quarterback for those games. But the thing at quarterback that's a little different, you know, this year is some of the running backs are going to fall a little later, so the quarterbacks are moving up. And I think that top tier is Drew Brees, Tony Romo, and Carson Palmer is also in there. And I like Palmer third. I think he'll be the best value.
That's right, and Palmer did not have a good season, threw a lot of interceptions last year, but still had over 4,000 yards, around 26 touchdown passes. If that's a bad year for Palmer, imagine if he comes back.
A lot of things went wrong for him, and some of the bad things are already happening this year. Chad Johnson is a little banged up, but they brought Chris Henry back.
Oh God, why did they do that?
Well, I'll say this: Marvin Lewis isn't happy about that. I think the owner of the team wanted Chris Henry back, but I tell you what, just from a fantasy football and from a football perspective, we're not in the locker room. It's a good thing. They didn't have a third receiver, and Chris Henry is as talented as most starters in the league. So I think it'll help Palmer.
That's true, and Ben Utecht.
We don't have to hang out with him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Ben Utecht is you know, someone that's had a great preseason so far, and he
could be a guy that you take late as a second tight end. Yep.
Definitely, and and then sleepers and breakout stars. Jay Cutler has, I mean, he has the tools, the physical tools, and of course one of the strongest arms in the league. He is ready to put it together in his third season.
The only question I have with him is his teammates. The offensive line, the running backs, the wide receivers after Brandon Marshall, who suspended 2 games. I have no question that Jay Cutler is ready to step up to that Carson Palmer, Drew Brees, Tony Romo sort of level. He's that good, and I'm just convinced of it. His yards per attempt very high. So he needs some help from his teammates, but I think he will get enough. Eddie Royal, rookie receiver, looks pretty
Virginia
good.
Tech.
And I think he'll be about the 7th or 8th quarterback. Some other guys that did well in yards per attempt, which is something I look at. Sometimes touchdown numbers are a little low, but that could be fluky, are David Garrard and Matt Schaub. Now, Matt Schaub, every game that he finished last year, he didn't finish enough. That was a problem.
Right.
But every game he finished last year, he threw for at least 225 yards. Every single one. That's pretty amazing. He's got Andre Johnson, good tight end. I really like him. And then Garrard is very steady. He gets you the rushing stats.
Right, and it's funny. It shows you that the system that Gary Kubiak put in place is a great job, because Sage Rosenthal was able to put some numbers in that same system. And for potential disappointments, we have, you have 2 quarterbacks who I think can take the next step after solid postseasons: Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. Why?
I think in fantasy football, people remember the last thing they saw, and that's the playoffs. So I think that can get a little bit overrated. Phillip Rivers coming off a torn ACL, very erratic before he tore his ACL. We saw with Carson Palmer and Donovan McNabb. Usually hurts you when you're coming back, even if you're not mobile. Eli Manning, I just think in New York especially, where people are watching this, he's going to get a little overrated based on that Super Bowl hype. And then Derek Anderson is a guy... Look, he was very up and down. 6.2 yards per attempt in the second half of the season.
Right.
Didn't throw that many touchdowns in the second half. And he's got a really good backup in Brady Quinn. If they're 3-5 halfway through the season, I think Anderson might get the hook. You don't want to draft a guy like that. At least not that high.
That's right.
He's got to go in the top 5 or 6. Then you don't want him.
And the Cleveland fans will be calling for Brady Quinn. That's for sure.
They are.